Hello and welcome to your weekly edition of This Cyberrocks. It's your Rangers podcast. My name's Scott Patterson. As always, you're very welcome. Very pleased to be joined on the podcast this week by two of our seasoned pros. Shug Nibble joins us again. Hi Shug, how are you?
I'm good, mate. Still living off the bus of the weekend.
I'll tell you, you're more on our TVs just now than Boris Johnson, I have to say. You're a real sort of seasoned This Is Ibrox person, you know?
Yeah, but I'm hoping I'm not making as many cock-ups as Boris, so...
Allegedly. We'll need to change. This Is Nibble, we'll start calling it. And Andrew, always good to see you, buddy. How are you?
Very well indeed, Scott. Very well indeed. Glad to be here.
So before we get into it, we should say a very quick hello to our friends across at Zenith Coins. These guys are currently pulling together the wonderful Rangers coin collection. 5 beautifully crafted coins that celebrate iconic moments of our history. You've got the Founding Fathers, one for Ibrox Stadium, a coin that celebrates the celebrations of Barcelona in 1972, the guys that were involved in 9 in a row in the 90s, and there's a coin that's dedicated to the squad that won 55 last season. For further details, I recommend you go and have a look. All the W's, zenithcoins.com. It is well worth a wee peek in 5 minutes of your time. So, first of all, guys, you can probably see that I'm not wearing my headphones. It was the first time in a long time that I've podded ever, perhaps, without a set of headphones on. And it's been a combination of a couple of things. Norovirus in the house, which ain't been a good laugh at all, and getting decorated. So bear with me. We should say we're over the huge celebrations of last Thursday. I think we're over the celebrations of last Thursday and Sunday. It's good to gloat in a fantastic sort of week for the football. And Shug, we look at a trip to Fir Park now on Saturday afternoon. Of course, it was meant to be Sunday. We have to say kudos to Motherwell, who've been good enough to bring the game forward.
Yeah, brilliant. I seen the statement by Alan Burrows, the chief executive, saying that at the bottom of it, he basically said that they need to support Scottish clubs in European competition, which is a brilliant thing to say, and it's well received by the Rangers fans and board alike, and I'm sure the players will appreciate that extra day. But yeah, it's back to work. A couple of days off. I'm sure the players earned them a couple of days off, but they've got to come back with the same frame of mind and hit Motherwell away with Celtic.
Andrew, do you know, European runs always give us flashbacks of 2008 for me, and the frankly ridiculous amount of games that we had to play in such a short period of time when some of these players were running on empty. I think we've heard members of the playing squad say back then that, you know what I mean, we're really struggling to sort of get through games, and obviously you're trying to rest big players so they're available for bigger matches, etc., etc., etc. I just think it's a really cracking gesture by Motherwell, and it does give us that additional preparation for what is another huge European game next Thursday night.
I think so, Scott. It can't be bad. It can't be bad getting an extra 24 hours. And when you look at the calendar and no football from last Sunday until this weekend, nobody playing on the Saturday that can matter really to a Rangers v Motherwell game, and to give us that wee extra 24 hours for recovery, probably. I suppose it is recovery they're looking for. That's fantastic. What a gesture, fantastic gesture. However, the only thing different between now and 2008, I think sports science has got a lot to do with it.
Absolutely.
The recovery times and the scientific involvement of the club on individual players has got to be a hell of a lot better. I mean, 14 years ago, you assume it is going to be. And I think, God knows how many podcasts have spoken about Calvin Bassey's engine in the 114th minute on Sunday since the 120 minutes the previous Thursday. I think that's testament between the physical ability of these players and the advancements of sports science. It's got to be better, I think. But that aside, it's a great gesture. It didn't have to be done. I suppose it was asked for in a sense, but it didn't have to be honoured. And kudos to Motherwell for doing it, definitely.
I'll tell you, I think you raise a really good point, Andrew, that on the sports science. I think the obvious physicality of playing a high pressure football match with Braga and then Celtic, of course, both going into the extra time, as I say, 120 minutes. I think that the physicality of that is very much self-explanatory. However, I think that the mental toughness that these guys have shown in both of these occasions has been really impressive. And as you say, in 2008, that I would argue wasn't particularly a thing.
No, it can not be as advanced as it is just now. What I will say on this whole thing is, well, I've not been on a podcast since it was all announced. It's always been my firm belief that in a close run title fight, if you like, the Old Firm game after the split is generally tried to be slipped in to avoid a potential derby clincher.
Yeah.
You know, a league decider, if you like.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know why it couldn't have been this weekend. To put it in the second game, right slap bang in the middle of leg 1 and 2 of a possible, at that time, I understand that, a possible Europa League semi-final. I think it's ridiculous. There's no reason why it couldn't have been this weekend. The only thing I can think of is they didn't want back-to-back Old Firm games, but that's been done before.
Yep.
It's been done before. And I still, for this, I can't get my head around why they would slip it in between a potential leg 1 and leg 2 of a Europa semi-final. That aside, as I said, Motherwell didn't need to honour it, and they have, and that's fantastic.
Shug, obviously the last time we played Motherwell was at Ibrox, and I said off air before we started this podcast that the 2-each game at Ibrox, a month or so ago, maybe longer than that now, certainly. You worry we'll look back at that afternoon and think, goodness me, that was a real missed opportunity being 2 up, and then of course coming away with a point, finishing 2-each. I wonder if Giovanni will look at the game and sort of set up to nullify their threat, which was clearly the boy, I think it was Slattery, the boy that was playing down the right-hand side and really buzzed about up front all afternoon for them.
Yeah, I think that's what they will. Gio showed that he's taken every team into account. He's not just bog standard tactics. He's going to take their threats into account. He's going to, like you say, nullify them. It's as big a warning as the players ever need that games aren't finished until that final whistle goes. Motherwell, I think we've got an unbelievable record at Motherwell. I think, I could be wrong in saying, but I'm sure we've won like 20 odd games in a row apart from the playoff year. But in the league, I think somebody said that. But it always seems like a tough trip. It always seems a difficult trip. We always never seem to make it easy. So players don't need any more warning, and they've got to, like I say, put that same effort in they had against Celtic and against Braga and treat them with the same respect, because they're going to want our throats. And Motherwell, I think they're all outside of Hearts. The other 3 are all involved in that fight for the European spot. So they're going to be desperate to get a win or at least a point off us. So we're going to have to fight hard.
Andrew, one of the things that has always jumped out about trips to Fir Park has been almost the closeness to the pitch. Obviously, Tynecastle is similar in that ilk as well, but there's a definite tightness around Motherwell when you go there. And I sometimes think that adds to maybe not the fear as such, but the awareness that you're not going to get an easy game there.
I think so. That's testament to any ground in Scotland that's like that, as you say. Tynecastle's very similar. That's a strange stat that Shug said there about 20 games, because I always worry about going to Fir Park. I always have. I'd be surprised at that. I don't doubt it, Shug. I'd be very surprised though to find that it was 20 wins in a row. Yeah. You know, perhaps 20 not dropping points. Not losing. It's not a nice place to go. That said, Motherwell kind of scraped into the top 6. It's a funny top 6 already.
It's a really big top 6. It is. Absolutely agree.
Motherwell kind of scraped into it by the skin of their teeth, but they're there on merit. They're there, so they're a top 6 team in essence. They're a top 6 team, so it won't be particularly easy. My mind's certainly casting back to this, especially the second 45 minutes at Ibrox. The first 45 were absolutely frightening and should have been more than 2 ahead, so it shouldn't have happened. But it will be. My mind is casting back to that. We've got to go. We've got to go and impose ourselves on that game. It's as simple as that. The only kind of glimpse of hope that we've got in catching Celtic in this league is Celtic dropping points, obviously, but we have to do our job, and emphatically. Yeah. I think a lot of people, Rangers fans, going into Sunday, were still on a high from Thursday night. Obviously, I was anyway. It wasn't until about 11:30 on Sunday morning I thought, there's an Old Firm semi-final today, you know, I better get up for this. So I'm sure I'm not alone in that. And I think Celtic fans took it as read that it was going to be a whitewash, and the rest of the league would be a whitewash.
Yeah.
Now, that might well be the case, but in order for any kind of doubt to creep in, we have to emphatically impose ourselves on Saturday. And to be honest with you, I don't doubt it. I think we will. I really do think we will. I'm kind of always worried about going away from home to these places, but I think we should be all right.
Shug, I think when we're progressing in the fashion that we are in Europe, it's often easy to look at the weekend game before and think, I wonder where Gio changes this to make sure he's got his strongest possible players for the midweek game, Thursday game, if he's putting the Thursday games and the Europa League ahead of the sort of domestic affairs. I wonder where he stand on what he'll do on Saturday. We obviously seen at the weekend, McLaughlin came in for McGregor. McLaughlin's largely been the cup keeper all season. Not a great shock. However, I just wonder, with big game after big game coming for the next 6 weeks or so, I do wonder if you may see a little bit more rotation than we've seen all season.
I've got a feeling they'll go as strongest 11 at the weekend. I think at Motherwell, I think it'll go as strongest 11 almost, because it's a long, if you think of the Celtic games, the last game before they play a European game, it's a long time to be sitting doing nothing. Well, not doing nothing, but being out of the team. So I've got a feeling they'll play strongest 11, obviously taking Motherwell into account. Maybe be a bit more attacking team than what we see in Leipzig on the Thursday night, but I think he'll try his best, especially after he showed against Celtic last weekend. Players had just played extra time and he put them out again. Yeah. So I think the fitness and stuff that they showed that weekend, I think the general fitness of the team is there. So I think he will pick his strongest 11. Although, do you bring Cedric Itten in? I was like goal at Motherwell, so
listen, he really does. He absolutely does. I do think Itten's sort of tailing towards the end of his Rangers career, certainly. But listen, I think that Saturday's going to be one of these games, I think, where you may see a few surprises. I think he may move things around a bit. What do you think, Andrew?
I think he will as well, but I don't think it'll be drastic. I think he's the kind of manager who will enjoy riding the crest of a wave, for want of a better expression, and keeping probably the same crux of the team together. We're quite fortunate we've got players on the bench that can come off and do a job, especially in Motherwell and in away tight places like this, You're right, though, it's very interesting. Will he do wholesale changes? I don't see it. I don't see it. There might be some changes. Injuries as well. Do we know what's happened to Aaron Ramsey? I've been very busy since Sunday, so...
Well, I've seen something tonight, and it looks like his injury may keep him out for about 10 days, I think.
Right. Well, that's just right.
He'll not be involved in Saturday. I very much doubt it.
No, I wouldn't think so then. I think he'll go with a strong team. I can see where you're coming from. There could be some surprises, but I think you want to keep up that winning mentality. That's a tough thing to do, especially so late in the Europa League semi-finals. Semi-finals of Europa League. It's such a hard thing to try and marry up, playing with momentum and resting. Absolutely. Now, the team from the east end of the city didn't do well with a week's rest last week, and we blew them away after playing 120 minutes 3 days prior. So make of that what you will, make of their training what you will. It's entirely up to Gio, but I think he will go with majority of the crux of what's there already and try and keep riding that crest of a wave.
Shug, I'll tell you, I think he's got really good options just now. So you've obviously got Barisic just came back in from the cold after looking like he was really, really miles out of the picture. He's came back in and has looked really quite decent, I felt. Bassey can obviously move in one. I wonder about maybe seeing Leon King at some point at the weekend. Wouldn't be at all surprised. To keep Balogun good, perhaps, for Thursday against Leipzig. I wonder if you'll see maybe Stephen Davis at some point on Saturday. Last 2 games he's been involved in, he's been excellent, has arguably changed it. I think on both occasions he's kept a bit of maturity and an intelligence that I don't think anyone else has got just now. and we've been really lucky to have him back and involved in the manner that he has been. Big thing for me is what we do up front, and the service and the consistency of Roof up top, I think, is really important on Saturday.
Yeah, Roof's he's my one sort of concern going into it, because he will be playing a lot of football. Well, if you're not there, there's no real backup for Roof, so I don't know with him playing so much last week if it's a chance to. I was still semi-joking bringing in Cedric, but if it's a chance to offload him for a bit, knowing that he is going to be playing a big part next weekend and the Thursday afterwards. I think there's question marks around the Barcy Balogun thing.
Yep.
I was surprised that Balogun didn't start against Stirling. I know I'm in the pod previous. Actually, I've been in a lot of pubs today. They actually think about it. I know the pod before the game, I had sort of tipped Balogun to play, Barcy to play beside Barisic at the back. So I don't know if it's in Gio's thinking that Barcy's my first choice partner for Goldson now, because he offers so much, especially coming out from the back and things. Or whether Balogun has picked up that knock and they're just sort of easing him back in and not wanting to, especially with Hollander being out for the season, not wanting to lose Balogun as well. So I guess somebody behind the scenes will know better. But Leon King I'd like to see, but I don't know if they wait until the league's sort of decided one way or another.
Yeah.
And then we see King coming in and Lowry and things like that getting chances then. But I've no fears if the team sheet comes up on Saturday morning and Leon King's in it, I'm going to be happy. I'd like to see more of him, so I don't sweat him coming in. He's looked the part, so it would be nice to see him playing.
Andrew, relatively confident going to Fir Park surely at the weekend, are you not?
Yes, I think I am. I think I would put my cards on the table and say I'm relatively confident. I'm always apprehensive going away from home. Our form since Christmas hasn't been great away from home, and this isn't a place I like to go. But on the whole, head and advice, I would say yes, I'm confident.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think we can go there with, on the back of the last two games that we've had, I think we can go there with a huge deal of confidence. Two huge games that we've came through unscathed. I know we have the injury to Aaron Ramsey that's going to keep him out for probably Motherwell and the first leg of the Europa League tie. But I do think we can go in with a decent degree of confidence, and just as you say, and I totally agree, just look to do our job at the weekend first and foremost. I think that's really critically important. I want to speak to Andrew about Alex Lowry. There's obviously a bit on his contract situation just now, and we're hearing that Newcastle are in for him. I believe there's some other Premiership teams down south looking at him. Where do you stand with Alex Lowry's situation just now?
I'd be very, very sad to lose him. I'd be very, very sad to lose him for two reasons. Number one, I think he's a smashing player. I think he gets it. I think he ticks both the boxes. And secondly, I just don't know how successful people who go down there, especially at big clubs, especially if they go to some of the big four or big six, whatever it is nowadays, they tend not to get on so well. Look at Gilmore going to Chelsea. I don't think the manager fancied him very much elsewhere, right enough. So there's things like that. I think he would be well suited to staying here.
Yeah.
I think he should be in the plans for next season to play a good majority of games. I think he's got it about him. He's got enough about him. He's showed that. He's proved that. But I think he would do well to stay with us for another year or two. Nathan Patterson, look at him there. He stayed for another season or season and a half, it may have been, and goes down for silly money. Silly money. Oh, okay. It's perhaps not working out at Everton at present for him, but that's not to say it will change come the turn of the season, depending where we are. But I think he would do well to stay with us, and I think he should be and will be in the manager's plans if he does do that. I'd be very, very sorry to lose him, Scott. Very sorry to lose him.
Shug, I think the thing about Lowry, and we've spoken about it in the podcast before, is he seems to have an ability just to glide by players. It doesn't strike me as being a particularly fast player, but definitely has something up there. something in his presence of mind that is really special with a young guy that's just developing his game, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not the same player, but the last person that sort I can remember Rangers was Barry Ferguson.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
seemed to be ahead of his time, and I know Barry was a bit deeper lying, but he seemed to be able to get his head up and see that pass and see things. Obviously, Dick Advocate at the time identified in Barry, and I think Gio could almost be the same for Lowry, and he's him in the squad. I like to think at this time of the season, with so many players out of contract and things like that, that plans are already made for next season. I'd like to think that the likes of Lowry's been told that we're expecting you to play 20 games next season. We're expecting you to be a fringe player or a regular player or some kind of impact sub, and we're going to see you and sort of guarantee him more games and try and tie him down that way. I think it's his best path to get into one of the bigger teams in England is to have a couple of good seasons at Rangers and hopefully make us a lot of money someday or become a legend. But I think definitely from his post in midweek from the Glasgow Cup semi-final, he certainly loves being a Rangers player, and he's not shy in putting a wee dig in at them either. So,
listen, and I'll stick with you, Shug. I think one of the things that I do really, really like just now is that we've spoke before on the podcast about the pathway for the youth going into the next stages of development, which is squad involvement, first team squad involvement before you become a regular. He's now at that stage where he is in between, I think, between being leading B team player to squad member. The pathway seems to be there now. I think there's now a real visible sign of them progressing from B team to squad member.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely there now. I've got a feeling that that's one of the reasons why Dave Vos was brought in as Gio's assistant. I'm sure Gio had a number of assistants that he could have went for. But I think part of the remit when Gio got the job was that, look, we've got, I'm sure Ross Wilson and Craig Mulholland and stuff said, we've got a good batch of kids here. It would be good if there was somebody in your staff that could help bring these players through. And what a better appointment than Dave Vos to help Gio bring these players on. I've got to say, I think the Academy's been doing a fantastic job since its restructure and everything, and these players coming through now that probably started their Rangers careers back in about 2015 and things like that when they started coming into the Academy. They look a different level. We saw with Lowry when he's come into the team, we saw when King was in the team, we saw when Parks came into the team. They're not faced by it at all. They see it themselves as, well, this is the next step. They don't shirk away from it and us as supporters. Like I said, I'm sure that I'm not the only one that thinks of Kings on that team sheet on Saturday. You don't even bat an eyelid. You don't say, "Oh no, it's not the right game for them." You just know they're coming in with that air of confidence. They know they're good enough, and I think there's definitely a pathway there now. And I would like to think that this summer, I'd like to see Rangers spend a bit of money, but I would like to be in positions where we haven't got a Lowry or a King or a McCann that can come in and fill these roles.
Listen, I'm glad you mentioned Charlie McCann because it was lovely to see him absolutely body Christopher Julian in the team game during the week. That was nice to see. And his pass for I think it was the Ross McCausland goal, was Davis-esque. He's a real good player. We're lucky to have him. Andrew, I want to come back to you. Obviously, the man with the keys to the castle as far as contracts are concerned is Ross Wilson, so all eyes are on him for this Lowry situation. What do we offer someone like Alex Lowry? How do we make staying at Rangers really attractive to him?
Two things. Regular football or money, or a combination of both.
Yeah.
Because if an English team comes in, generally a bigger English team comes in, it's financial. They'll go down there for ridiculous sums of money per week, a good signing on bonus, more money than he's ever seen, but not the guarantee of regular football.
No, not at all.
I believe. So I think it's up to Ross Wilson and the Rangers management team now to sit down with Alex Lowry and tell him their exact plans and what they're willing to pay him financially, and kind of make they two marry up together to make it as attractive as possible, which I don't think would be a hard job with Alex Lowry, judging by his posts and his demeanour around the club.
Yes.
I don't think it's going to be very hard to hang on to him. I don't think they're going to have to offer golds and golds and golds, or you're going to play every minute of every game. I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's just got to be incentive enough to stop him from signing a cheque for thousands and thousands of pounds down south. I don't think it will take very much at all, Scott. And I think it's very important that they do that.
Shug, Ross Wilson has, over the last couple of weeks, I think, taken a bit of a tough time on this. And he said that, I think it was the AGM, he said that he was really quite relaxed about the sort of contract situation of the players, referring to guys like Goldson, etc., which is fair enough. However, I think we're now at that bit where these contract stages become a little bit more ticklier in my throat today, I have to say. But I just wonder if, as the focus continues to be on him, he really has to pull his socks up and get a good deal for all parties here, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think the youth contracts we definitely want them tied down. We want Lowry tied down. We want King tied down. We want to make sure McCann's tied down for as long as possible. I know that the model for a lot of these English clubs, Chelsea, have been good at it in the past, is to bring in young players, and because they've got Chelsea on their CV, they can sell them for 10, 15 million, even though they're not necessarily worth that amount, and it's how they make money back. So I wouldn't like to think that that's what they would do with the likes Alex Lowry for down there, just so they can sell them on in a few years' time for silly money. But it is something, I guess, that they have to watch, that's not why they're being invested in. But I guess I'm comfortable with the over 30 group of players out of contract. I've no worries that if we wanted to keep any of them, they would probably want to stay, bar maybe McGregor, who's maybe going to retire. Goldson, that's a difficult one for me. I understand the whole wage structure thing, and I said before that Goldson would be at the top of my wage structure. But when you think of the money that it's going to take to replace him, I've seen somebody saying it'll take an £8 million signing to replace him. Do you turn around and offer Goldson your top wage and say, here's £2 million in your pocket as well? Because that's still going to be cheaper than paying £8 million for somebody you don't know what you're going to get. Whereas with Goldson, we know what we've got and we're lucky to have him. So it's a tough one. I mean, if Goldson's decision that he wants to go because he wants to be near a home or something like that, we can't argue, we can't fight that. But he's not going to get a club the size of Rangers. He's not going to get big European nights. He's not going to be winning trophies. So I think the lure to stay at Rangers, I hope it's there for him.
I think as well, it was interesting to see Conor Goldson after Braga and Celtic, and the way they reacted. And he was quite, you could see he was quite, I think he was quite emotional, particularly after Braga. I think he found that really quite, not hard to stomach, but I think there was a realisation at that point, and maybe a realisation that he's never had thus far in his contract talks, that I may never ever get the opportunity to do this again. So there's no doubt, if we put Leipzig out and get to the final, and Conor Goldson hasn't made a decision at that point, I wonder if that would be something that would clinch it for him. It would be something very interesting to keep an eye of and keep abreast of, and we'll do that across this Ibrox, of course. Andrew, before I let you go and my voice manages to stay on, what's your score prediction for Saturday, buddy?
I'll go for 3-1. 3-1 Rangers.
3-1 Rangers. And Shug, same question to you, buddy.
Yeah, he's just stole my prediction, so I'm going to say 4-1 now.
with it in a hat-trick, is it? An it in a hat-trick?
Yeah, I think it's going to be on the bench. We're going to bring him on. He's going to get at least 2.
Listen, I don't care what anyone says. Any win will do. Any win still works at this point in the season. Our friends in air commas have a difficult tie on Sunday, and we hope they get pumped up there, let's be perfectly honest. I really need to leave this here, guys, as it is. Appreciate your time, as always. Shug, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I'm here forever, I think.
And Andrew, always good to see you, buddy. We'll get you on the next couple of weeks, all right? Thanks for joining us.
Anytime, pal, anytime. Good to see you.
Should say that a special nod out to the women's team who play for the first competitive game at Ibrox on Sunday. 4:10 kickoff at Ibrox. Get along there if you can. Of course, you'll know that Claire Gemmell and I host the only podcast that is dedicated to the Rangers women's team, so we're really championing these guys. If you can get there on Sunday, I recommend you do. Under 16s go free, and it's £1 entry otherwise, so jump in, have a look. And we should say Megan Cunningham from the women's team goalkeeper joins us on the pod next week as well, so we look forward to that. Listen, thanks for joining us. As you can tell, it's just about gone entirely, and we'll do it again next week. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.